This last Halloween, we changed our schedule, and I took the opportunity to run a horror game demo I've been playing around with, and I had the group throw together some characters for it. The game takes place in a Warhammer 40k universe, but all the PCs really knew about the greater universe was that during the golden age of technology, humanity expanded across the Milky Way galaxy, settling distant worlds through the use of advanced technologies like robotics, artificial intelligence, antimatter, FTL, genetic engineering, yada yada yada. Now, the part that was pertinent to the characters, their ancestors were part of the crew of the Eternal Hope, a large seed vessel en route to a very isolated binary star system dubbed Oasis. It lay on the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Oasis possessed a single large Eden-class planet with a strong magnetic field and a massive resource-dense outlying asteroid belt. The Eternal Hope was the first of the 3 seed ships en route for the system. Its mission was to establish a starport and lay the groundwork for a massive colony on Oasis 1. 3 years after that, another ship, the Dream, was to arrive, bringing more supplies, redundant functionality, and crew. And then several years later on, they would be followed by the Caesar, bringing the majority of the colonists to Oasis. As the Eternal Hope neared Oasis, the records indicate some catastrophic event caused the Geller fields to collapse destructively. Only the aft section of the vessel made it out of warp. Most of the cryopods sat near the fore of the ship in the most heavily shielded sections. The ship arrived outside of the Oasis system some 37 light-years away in dead space. Domino, the ship's AI, and STC awoke the most pertinent staff members remaining to start damage control on the vessel. Through their skill and determination, more than 7,000 members of the original crew survived, and the vessel was stabilized. The objective now was to broadcast a beacon for the Dream to respond and limp their way towards the Oasis system on sublight drives. But the Dream never came, and it took 92 years and many lives for the Eternal Hope to reach Oasis. When they arrived, Oasis was empty. No other ship was waiting for them. The now 4,000 remaining crew members scouted out a landing site on Oasis 1 for the Eternal Hope, and the first colony was built from her body. The atmosphere was thick and the vegetation was abundant, but so were large creatures on the surface. Also, while Oasis 1 had a strong magnetic field and a thick atmosphere, the surface was no stranger to meteorite impacts due to the large asteroid belt near in the system, though the position of the second sun acted as an asteroid catcher. Over thousands of years, the survivors bounced back in no small part due to Domino, advanced robotics, and latent psionic talents among the populace. As such, robotics have become very ubiquitous within Oasis technology, as have minor psionic talents. The population of Oasis 1 now sits at 15 million, with an emphasis on large families, hard work, and talent. There are 5 colonies: Hope's Fall, the original colony, Utar, Lemurs, Nermis, and the new starport, New Hope, all connected via high-speed underground gravitic trams. Each colony is built with durability and safety in mind, in part due to a shared cultural heritage of survival. Each colony is protected by an asteroid deflection field and built deep underground with redundant power systems, impact shelters, surface tunnels, and a domino fragment that had been painstakingly copied and acts as the colony's superintendent. Hope's Fall houses the original Domino, and New Hope recently brought online the first fully redeveloped AI since the Fall, Oberon. The colony world's first starport, New Hope, now sends intersystem automated drones to explore and mine resources in-system, and the production of the starship Homeward Bound is now awaiting a Geller field generator capable of leaving the system. However, current research suggests that Oasis sits on some sort of warp dead zone, although Geller research to one day go home is considered a noble pursuit. The group made their characters in GURPS, generic universal role-playing system. They're given 200 points and negative 50 disadvantages. The group has been playing a lot of GURPS just because with some minor home rules, it becomes a very versatile system, and it has very little hokey game mechanics like a lot of other games do. And the 3d6 gives you a nice bell curve, so you're not always looking for that 1 or that 20 on a d20. You usually get average results, so your stats become much more pertinent to the task at hand. Crime is very low on Oasis, and while the colony is a communist government, resources are plentiful and quality of life is very high. Hope, hard work, and teamwork are defining features of these people, so I disallowed antisocial and very destructive disads that the PCs can have a tendency to take. Virtually everyone is trained in the sciences in the community. Even daycare workers, entertainers have a very strong background in technology and scientific skills. Technological skills, I told them, are going to be very helpful, and robotics is very common in this setting. The characters should have had goodwill and fright checks. They would also have mild combat training, given that there are large predatorial creatures on the surface. But outside teams almost always travel with GPRs, general-purpose robots. for defense and usually travel via rover outside. However, they can be trained with beam weapons. Las guns or las pistols are common defensive weapons, but the colony superintendent disables them inside colony zones. The PCs were also allowed to take up to 15 points worth of psychic-like abilities from a list that I provided them, and I told them that advantages like danger sense, luck, absolute timing and direction, photographic memory, combat reflexes, and those things are somewhat common inside of the populace. Based on the backgrounds the PCs provided me, I had them start as a remote team up on the surface, accomplishing various goals outside the colony city of Lemurs. Now, we had changed our schedule a little bit, so the day we ended up playing was a little bit louder than I was expecting. You can see you'll end up hearing the first part of the audio we have, and if you guys enjoy it, I'll continue to put up the remainder of them for this particular campaign demo. But I still hope you enjoy. It's a little bit noisy today because we were playing on Friday, given it was Halloween yesterday. All the PCs are currently on the surface. Steve's character, you can tell your description and your character background, like your skill set, what do you do in the colony, what they know you for.
So I'm a descendant of the original navigator, and that means that I have some sort of, perhaps, psychic ability to know spatial anomalies.
Fifth-dimensional awareness.
And I work on the warp drives for the future ships, and I'm a scientist that does that. I gotta take my daughter to the facility.
So you two came out here, your character Chris and your character Trevor came out here. She's working on a prototype Geller device. That's not uncommon. It happens fairly frequently and throughout the different cities. The Geller field is a device that creates a real world space around a spaceship, protecting it from subspace. You guys are doing a botanical survey of this hidden valley up near the city. Was it the mega city of Lemurs?
With sound.
Yep. Steve misspelled hydroponics, but you guys are hydroponic technicians. Otherwise, like I said, you guys have been collecting samples. You may be up later in the evening. One of you has, I think, what the hell is it? I forgot what that's called. Regardless, Jolene's character is the on-site, medical staff that came up here. From what you understand of her character, it seems like she has more authority than somebody that would have got sent out here, but you don't know why. So, Chris, you can talk about your character.
Sorry about that.
Actually, that was the character Steve gave you. You have a new one. What does he do?
Mine's fresh out of schooling. His emphasis was on securities and operations.
Okay.
It's more like being groomed. He's being groomed to be into the administration aspect of it. He has a little bit of repair skills and operations and electronics, surveillance, sensors.
Hi guys, sorry to interrupt. Do you drive a Volkswagen?
Yeah.
Or a little silver hatchback?
Volkswagen.
It's parked in the hatchback. It's parked along the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, dome lights on.
The what?
Dome light?
Trevor will have to check that.
Yeah, so you'll be able to go.
It's a Dodge Omni.
Then he has a family, roughly about 22 years in age,
Right.
and this is his first above
Surface.
world, the surface mission.
Like I had mentioned before, the colonies are mostly underground because of meteorite impacts and other things of that nature. They have a field, but everything's kind of redundant, very resilient. Your character would be providing security and getting a rough feeling for some of the operations that happen on the surface. There's only a very mild threat of carnivorous predators up here. Usually that's why you end up having GPRs and all, with the las cannons, because they can provide site defense. And I'd probably say that you're also working as a little bit of a leader of the group, just because this is a low priority, low middle management type position to kind of look over. Trevor's character is a hydroponics technician. He would be the one doing the botanical survey. And as I said before, Jolene's character is a medical staff. You can give your description and your character name. Did you give your character name, Chris?
Oh, my name is Taj.
Taj?
Lightbender.
Taj Lightbender.
My name's Carol Beer.
What's her name?
Carol Beer.
Carol Beard.
Background?
Yep, just general idea of the character concept.
I was medevac military medic before becoming senior administrator at Warhammer.
There's multiple hospitals inside of
What's
Lemurs.
the best?
They're redundant. I would probably say that they might be slightly more skilled technicians in Section C.
Do you drive a really old car?
Yes.
Is it like boxy?
Yes.
Is it blue?
Dodge Omni.
Is it closer to this side than that side?
Is it a blue car?
I have no idea. It looked grayish to me.
Oh, I would.
She can check it.
So, here's the parking lot, right? Here's our building. This is the door we come in. Here's the parking lot, right? Are you parked here?
I know you do feel a little bit bad when we sidetrack so much.
Are you parked here, Julian?
Better look for the keys.
She can go out and check. Just go. Just go.
Bathroom, car.
Is it your car?
Yep.
I've got a Ford Escape, but I'm parked not where you pointed on your diagram.
We'll pause temporarily. All right, so we're back. Sorry about that. So as I said before, you guys are doing various operations. Since you're all kind of going up at the same time, it's nice to be fairly secure. That way the GPRs have a better coverage on you rather than sending out 3 different teams for different purposes up here. The valley is fairly close to Lemurs. I'd probably say that you're close to about 200 miles away. Given the terrain, maybe about, I would say, 200 miles. That sounds about right. The terrain, there are some straits. It generally would take about 8 to 9 hours to get back to base camp. You guys have been out for about 3 days. You've been doing your various activities, either administering the site, working with the robots on the Geller field testing. The Geller fields do interact with other electronic devices, so that's the reason that you'd most likely be doing it away outside the colony, just to make sure you're not causing any kind of adverse reaction. And especially since you're developing new types of Geller fields, there's a possibility that something happens. However, you guys are sleeping for the most part inside of the rover. The 2 GPRs are out near the Geller device. Chris and Steve, what was your characters' names again?
Taj.
Taj and Kismet. Both of you guys will be a little bit suffering a little bit of insomnia. You'll be at a -1 IQ for this upcoming day, but ultimately you end up missing sleep. I would say sometime around the same period. It's about 4 a.m. in the morning. I would say, first of all, Kiz, there's some audible feeling that you get, and usually it's only associated with Geller fields. The direction is roughly below you, and you can give me a perception check.
I throw a Snickers bar at him using my telekinesis.
Your 2 characters are asleep right now. It's just
Telekinesis.
these 2. Well, if you had sleepwalking, that would be applicable.
I made my perception
awesome.
by 1.
By 1. It was roughly below you. You don't think it was from the colony. It felt pretty distant. But there was something noticeable, and normally it would have to be a pretty strong signal for you to feel something regarding that. The Geller field that you're working on in the morning also seems to react to something from that direction. You might be able to calculate direction or strength, but without checking with another pinpoint location, it's going to be hard to tell. You only have 1 point. You would feel kind of an oddness creep in around the same time period, but it's only after you guys see various sensor devices and the rover temporarily lose power for a moment. It seems like it boots back on, the computers went off, it looks like the GPR lights out there turned off temporarily.
I'll check. I'll do a electronics sensor operation to see if.
Yep, you can give me electronics operations.
I tell you, I've sent some
was that?
other Geller fields. Like,
Yeah, something doesn't feel right either, but I still got to check.
below
GPR stands for
near-
General Purpose Robot. The same with RPR is a replacement purpose robot, and they're usually sent into positions
weird to
where
see numbers
a
this low.
human-like figure could fit in, but a GPR would be a little bit too haphazard. And TPR are technical robots, and they're a little bit like R2-D2, except they roll around.
By 1.
Do they have any kind of wings?
No.
Or like a little helicopter thing?
No, but you guys do
I'm
have.
not impressed
There
by
are a
them.
few satellites in orbit. Well, R2D2 is its own droid, but there are satellites in orbit, so you guys would have access to satellite imagery and things of that nature. That's how you came across this valley.
By 1.
By 1.
R2D2 has rocket packs. Do they have
All
rocket
this-
packs?
They do not.
You're asleep.
The sensors seem to indicate, at least on the rover, that there was a temporary power fluctuation, and not that it was overloaded, but it temporarily lost power. The sensor on the reactor, you have a cold fusion reactor on the rover, it tells you that it hasn't stopped producing power at any point in time. It's just all the conduits running off from it detected a power loss around the same time period, and he kind of felt an oddness.
Location of power loss?
From what he can tell, it was all across the rover. It drained drastically quicker the further away it was from the reactor. And some of the outside rover, some of the sensors that are out near the Geller field, also failed around the same time period.
I'll let you know.
You did see the lights flicker on the GPRs, and it seems like they might have rebooted as well.
Okay. So would that be under security, right?
The robots, you could do sensors on the robots, or with the technical robots. I'd probably say about 40 pounds.
How big are they?
They're half a meter tall, but they're very rugged.
I was imagining like
No, they're like a very large, like a mid-sized to small beach ball. They're larger than a basketball, and they're pretty solid and built, so they are heavy. They can walk themselves, though. None of them have true AI. They're usually operated by a remote controller or a superintendent in one of the cities.
I'll run I'll go through them and check their sensors and make sure that they're operating.
It's fairly dark outside still. You can run remote diagnostics from here. You can give me electronics ops sensors.
I'll go through the logs to see what caused this event. Like,
Missed it by 2.
did the reactor momentarily stop or something, just to see what it has as
You can give me a
event.
computer operations or an electrician. What was your roll by, Chris?
Missed it by 2.
Missed by 2? It seems around the same time period they shut off. It looks virtually the same. With absolute timing, since you do have that, I believe, you could tell that
I got chronolocation.
it seemed like it all happened around the same time period.
It did by 5.
By 5? What, computer operations, you said?
Computer operation.
The reactor indicates that it's never turned off or anything like that. It's always been producing power. It looks like you had some sort of unilateral short on all the conduits running away from the reactor. They ground it out somewhere. But all the sensors now seem to indicate it's fine.
I'll tell you it's odd. I'll tell you what I've discovered.
Most of the Oasis technology is EM shielded, so it's unusual that some sort of large EMP would have knocked out anything. But maybe a large enough asteroid impact somewhere could have theoretically produced a magnetic pulse that slightly disrupted your systems.
I'll tell you again, I sensed another Geller field below the surface of the planet. There shouldn't be anything down there. I'm thinking, is there any tunnel or anything that could be below us? Like there was maybe a Geller machine on a train or something?
I'll bring up a map to see if we can figure out any type of readings or sonars at the time.
All right. From where you are in Lemurse, do you have navigation land?
That's what I was going for.
Have navigation in space, kind of default, -2.
I think it's a -4 from land.
-4, that's fair. No, 14.
There might be a tram tunnel deep underground where you are near here, but you can't be for certain. You're not sure.
Okay.
Otherwise, there are a few relay stations, but you don't think so. So what were you saying, Chris?
I was going to try to draw up an overlay
Okay.
of all the maps that we have of New Hope and the other cities to make sure that bring it into a 3D sense of like, okay,
Yep. You can give me a computer operations roll.
oh no, roll to 17.
17.
break the computer.
You can manage to pull it up. It just takes a moment. That's it. You have what you can see is a locally stored copy of a map. Was it satellite imagery for the area?
try to use the computer to figure out if we are above a train tunnel or something.
Looking at it, based on the maps that you have in storage here, there's no tram or anything else that should be underneath this system. Or this area, I should say.
Do we have any sonar readings of any caverns in the area that possibly lead?
The valley itself, there have been larger surveys. You haven't detected any kind of heavy mineral deposits in the region, so it's been relatively untouched. This is mostly a biological survey here. It's just it also happened to fit a remote region where Geller research could be done. There's nothing that you're aware of. There could be some sort of underground cave system in the nearby area. You haven't done a full survey. Actually, you can give me a perception-based natural... are you waking anyone else up?
We had an anomaly. I think we should wake the others up.
It didn't make any noise. Some lights flickered. That's why they weren't woken up. Even with light sleeper, it wouldn't have woken you up.
We'll wake them up and just let them know.
All right.
We had an anomaly, I tell you.
Shut
down the
you
water
gotta hit me
system.
again, I'm still sleeping. You keep shaking me and I'm still sleeping.
I'll go to the water dispenser, get some water, and just pour it on him.
Okay, he pours water on you.
I wake
With deep sleeper, you wouldn't be...
It's
you
not a
wake up-
disadvantage.
Yeah, it's not a disadvantage. It's just you could sleep soundly if you
If you
wanted
wanted
to. You
to.
could sleep through someone trying to mildly shake you. So they make you aware of the things that, depending on what they want to tell you.
We had an anomaly. It shut down a lot of electrical systems. I felt a Geller field develop below the surface of the Earth, independent of the research that we're doing. It was odd. And all the systems are rebooting and stuff.
You're aware that there's some individuals on the planet that...
I'll look at you and be kind of... I'll tell you if I see cool plant things too, but you don't need to impress me, man.
Okay.
You're aware that there are some people on the planet that do have an extra-dimensional sense, and they can roughly visualize where Geller fields are.
Be like, look at that candle over there. I'm lifting it. See?
Is there any rolls that I could make?
It's whatever you want to do.
Does anybody can figure out if there's any been any
A
underground
Geller field
caverns and
is
stuff like that?
kind of a warp drive.
I'm sure we have
It's
all the
a
sensors
field
that
that
we need on
protects...
here.
Ask them about land maps or
So
anything.
sonar, see if there's
So you
any.
can talk to the other PCs that were doing other stuff during that time period. So
Well-
feel free to ask them questions or interject.
We need to find out if there's any underground caverns underneath us to see if there's any access points or exit points that aquifers or anything like that is.
You guys are pretty serious about this, huh?
Can I roll for land?
Are you trying to impress her or something? What's with the big show?
Why were they rolling for land?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There was a land nav roll, but unless you tell me what you wanted to achieve with land nav or you talk to the other PCs, that roll is passed because of the question somebody asked me.
I detected a Geller field below us someplace. I don't know if we're above a tram station or anything weird like that. I don't think we are, but if you know the layout of the planet better, maybe you can figure out if we're above a
Do we have any maps?
underground railway station.
You have maps stored locally. You can give me a computer operations perception check.
Was it perception or IQ?
So it's computer operations. Do you have that? Then it's perception based.
Okay, so it'd be the same.
Yep. So you take your RSL and then apply it to your
11.
maybe by 11. He hasn't noticed yet, but it seems as though you're running, rather than having a direct feed to what the hell is it, Domino 3. Apparently, you're running on a local copy. It seems as though he has failed to realize that the computer here hasn't been talking to Domino for the last 10 minutes or so.
I'll relay that to them.
That's weird.
Your radios are equivalent, or they're very powerful. You should have access to communications relays above surface that talk to
And it's been
pretty much all the other city-states.
and it's been 10
Yours
minutes.
connection to Lemurse, to Domino 3, the superintendent, had been lost at the same time that the disruption
fluctuation.
was. You pulled up. You have local copies of all the maps, just you didn't realize.
Go to the radio, try to make a contact to was it the MERS? See if we can hail them on
You can give me a simple electronics operations communications.
electronics operations default. I don't have communications.
You can default off another operations at a -4.
Could I use a security channel to get a hold of him?
You can, but I would still say the limiting factor is your communication skill.
Missed it by 5.
By 5. Yeah, you've confirmed that there's some reason that you're not being able to communicate with Domino. Domino 3 at
Can
least.
I do, I have computer operations communications. Can I check for me if there's
Electronics operations communications?
Yeah.
You
Plus
give me
that
electronics
insomnia
operations
really
communications.
Only have one.
Yeah.
maybe by 3?
By 3? From what you can tell, you're not... The signal that's being sent from Lemurs is probably 1/4 the power it should be. You're still getting them clearly, but you're not able to send a signal back over to them. You're not sure what in between you is causing the disruption, but it seems as though there is a scrambling, an active scrambling of radio emissions coming from the rover. The only thing in addition to that is Lemur seems, Domino 3 is just broadcasting a general connection. It's not sending out any kind of information whatsoever. You don't see any drastic amount of EM emissions in that radio range, which Lemurs would normally be broadcasting a lot. There's pretty much just nothing except a few channels being sent out.
Do we know of anything that could be scrambled or communications?
You're inside the meteorite impact field. It's unusual. Like I said, a large asteroid could have temporarily knocked out some of the electronics, but you guys didn't detect anything like that, at least while you're up here. You didn't see a bright flash in the sky. Maybe the meteorite impact field is acting up, but it hasn't happened in your lifetime that you've been aware of.
You don't know of any plants that cause these things, the Geller fields? Are there any plants on the planet?
Yeah, like I said before, this planet, you originally arrived on Oasis with your own kind of food paste and other things like that, but a lot of your hydroponics are supplemented with modified versions of indigenous plant species.
Are there plants that make Geller fields for some reason or another?
No, nothing like that. There have been some pretty unusual plant species on the planet, but nothing that you would say is supernatural.
Electronics repair communications? Is there a lot of
If you pull in the other general purpose robots, each one of those has a reactor similar to the rover. You could try, you could set up a directional antenna.
Alright. We'll call him in.
Okay. Initially, you send out the call and nothing seems to happen. And it seems like one of the GPRs recycles and boots. And then it slowly comes over and then stops. The other one hasn't responded yet.
How far is it?
They're only probably about 6 meters outside. You can see them through the front windshield. You're in a pressurized rover environment. You could open the hatch. There's no...
I look for a rock and hit it with a rock.
All right. You physically look around outside with your light levels of telekinesis, and you find a small rock. You hit it. The GPR doesn't have any kind of tactile sensation except on the grippers, so...
I'll hit the grippers.
I'll go and put on
You can give me a dex check.
I'll go and put on my spacesuit.
Right. It's a breathable atmosphere. There's no known toxic elements that you haven't been adapted to.
Pass by 5.
You hit you're pretty sure you hit one of the grippers. It doesn't respond.
I'll go out. I'll head out to the door to go out
You
to
head to
get
the
the
GPR.
other... Yep.
What is it? You can turn on the lights outside the rover.
Yep.
I'll pick up a laser and put on a spacesuit and cover you.
I would say that anyone who can give me tactics if they have it.
One thing I didn't get.
Huh? Do you have a skill?
I had to make some...
I'll tell you what happens when you roll your tactics.
You've seen Aliens?
As Steve was asking,
My
Steve was asking about this earlier, but this is one of those exceptionally rare circumstances where both the GPRs are of limited functionality. When I said that predatory creatures, if you ever up on the surface,
Told ya!
It's very unlikely that both the GPRs would be down and you would be more vulnerable than normal. But now you're going into a situation where they're not responding like they should be. so they might not intercept something.
That's what trained laser is. Why don't you get that thing back online?
97, you remember him?
Yeah. Your IQ is big.
But still, that's where it's mimicking.
You should have a 9 IQ.
That would be even better, right?
Maybe my tactics by 4.
That's what I
I
said.
tried to mimic after him.
That's what you had told the group.
92, I think is what it is. So. All right, I'll try to get.
Otherwise, GPR 841 from Lemurse is next to the rover. The other one's still about 6 meters out and it hasn't responded.
I'll check that one first to see and run the diagnostics.
You can give me mechanic robotics or electronics repair robotics.
Need some help over there? I'll help him.
Mechanic, right?
Mechanic or electronics repair.
Do the robots count as people as far as Chumley is concerned?
No, not really.
Missed it by 4.
I would say the superintendents would count because they have an artificial intelligence. They can respond, they'll play games, other things of that nature.
This is the future market.
Robot by 2.
Missed it by 4.
This is
By 4.
Steve Handy.
You're not quite sure. It seems to be getting power. There are a few elements that you can check with a type of an ohmmeter.
I mean, can I do electronics operation sensors on that to see if everything should be geared up, right?
You can.
There's so many robots out here. And you're moving.
By 1.
That one. The sensors all seem to be working properly. They're indicating that there's various power loss all across the GPR. It is EM shielded, so you don't know what's causing the effect. With mechanics at a 2, the reactor is fully powered up. What do you think is probably causing the problem is there's intermittent power losses to the central processor, so the robot doesn't know what to do. It's like if somebody kept brownouting your computer station and keep rebooting.
I'll turn it off for a while and be like, count to 20. And then I turn it back on.
Yep. Initially, it seems to boot up. Everything seems to be fine with it.
Everything?
The sensors are telling you it's fine.
No more
Checking.
intermittent power losses?
It's still being
Not that.
long.
No, not since they've been here. No.
So I count to 20 again. We'll see if it works.
Seems to be fine.
I'll tell it to fix its friend.
Right. It'll go over to the other GPR. As it approaches the other GPR, you can see the lights on it flicker. And that's a bit odd because the lights, the amount of power draw that the lights would require is minimal in comparison to the reactor that's in one of these GPRs. It seems to open up a hatch on the other GPR. It ends up changing one of the grabbers on it to a small technical device, and then it seems to power down. And then you can see it rebooting.
I'll turn it off and be like, count to 40.
They're out of contact with the AI in our base.
Yep. These, as I said before, are not really true AI. They require remote operators, and they take basic commands, but they're probably as smart as I would say a mild intelligence dog. They have certain procedures that are stored within them, and including repairing other GPRs, but they don't know anything.
So what does the
They only act intelligently when controlled by a superintendent.
what does R2D2 do?
Could we
Those are
bypass
stored in the
super-
rover, and none of them are currently deployed.
Could we bypass the
I'll turn on the
superintendent and
R2D2.
use us as a default?
What was that?
Could we bypass the superintendent and use us as a default?
Well, they're acting out here remotely, so they wouldn't be controlled by a superintendent. You guys would be controlling them using voice commands or the rover. So they're already not acting within a superintendent's range. I should say the superintendent could send remote information to them, and they could send something back, but they're not attached. So you can start one of the TPRs up, the small technical
His name is
drones.
R2D2.
Okay, R2D Tard.
My bad, Alien 3. I'm actually thinking of someone else. I'm thinking of known aliens. It would be.
And I'll
So
tell,
far, it seems to boot up just
Paul Reiser's
fine.
character.
and I'll tell him to fix the other one.
Corporate guy.
Okay.
Well, no, he's because he's with the
Sending him out, he
Wasn't
does.
there a guy that was paramilitary?
You can
that
give
was
me a
with them that was-
perception check.
He was controlling.
Passed by 1.
You're not sure. He ends up heading out. It seems as though he starts to do the same thing. It looks like he cycles the power on one of the GPRs. Then shortly
What else is in
thereafter,
the truck? Do we have another one?
you,
No more.
I'll go.
Look at the damn thing. I have computer electronics repair.
from the looks of it, it looks like some sort of power issue. It's unlikely that there is a hardware fault in now the 3 drones that you have sent out there.
Let's try a 4th.
I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna grab my laser rifle. I'm gonna go out there and see if we have to try to bring him back, push him back, whatever, put him back in default or limp mode, and
Yep. You can ultimately reboot them, and for a small amount of time afterwards, they seem to operate normally, and you can recall them back to the rover. And the GPRs don't fit in the rover, but
Can I troubleshoot them by, like, I'm guessing the systems are partitioned, so shut off one system, let it run for a minute, and
You
see
can-
if, you know,
Power
kind of starting with the systems.
you have the tools here in the rover to do a full diagnostic on one of the GPRs. You can shut them down and then run full diagnostics if you want to.
Is the vehicle flickering?
The lights on the rover occasionally flicker.
Bastard.
There are, but the rover hasn't fully shut down yet. It seemed to reboot probably about 20 minutes ago, but that's the last time it did.
Can I see if there's new software running on the system?
You can give me a computer operations roll or a computer programming at +2.
I'll do computer programming at +2. I did it by 2.
You can see that the rover is running diagnostics, but that's probably because the sensors keep telling you that there's intermittent power failures. There's no new software that you can see that's running currently on the computer, other than you do see it's continually trying to contact Lemurse. That's just normal. It's normally supposed to have a direct connection to Lemurse at any point in time, but it's not connecting.
I'm going to stop it from trying to contact Lemurs.
Okay, you can do that fairly easily.
Okay? And would computer programming AI be a role that I could make for any reason?
That mostly deals with the superintendents.
Yep, I hear you.
So if you ever interacted with one of them, yes. For the rover, that's far too advanced for the rover.
Okay. I tell you guys, I've had it stop trying to contact Lemurs. We can fix that later.
Try shutting it off for 60 seconds, because that's the next step.
You do whatever you need to do.
I'll try to do a sensor scan of the area to see if there's any other things that are.
Okay, you can give me electronics operations sensors. The rover has a pretty decent sensor suite. The GPRs do as well, but given that they're being flaky right now.
By 3?
There's no EM emissions that are unusual. There is a small amount, I should say, there is some coming from Lemurse, but it seems to be just those radio communications trying to connect to something. If anything, there's normally the radio bands are a lot fuller than this.
Well, can we try a
You don't-
different frequency? If we don't try Lemurse, can we try Hope's Fall or even New Hope?
You're not sure what it is. You don't know. It might be that there's some sort of issue with the impact field for Lemurse, but you're not going to signal outside the force field.
Alright. I think we should pack up our experiments and head back.
Alright.
We shouldn't be
get to
able
look
to
at the plants.
What?
I didn't even get to look at the plants, man.
Plans?
Yeah, the plants. That's
I
what I
think
came
you've been out here for
for
3 days, and you've been
I
doing...
thought you said 3 days travel.
I think we've had enough. I think we just need to get back, report, redo our equipment, and then.
I don't like.
Weapons, rifles,
Well, if there's been an impact or something.
Or pistol.
I have both, but I was just because this is last.
Have you done a space sweep on the sensors to see if there's been a meteorite?
I have not. I guess I'll try to do a space sweep, see if there's been any kind of anomalies from outer space. solar flares,
Earthquakes, plate tectonics, I guess, volcanic activity,
asteroid strikes.
You're not getting any satellite signatures. In this instance, if something like that were to happen, you're to contact Lemurs, and they would act as a relay because they have much more powerful not telecommunications and sensors equipment. But Lemurs isn't communicating.
And by all protocol, if we lose all contact with Lemurs, which first priority be to go back to Lemurs?
You've done a lot of the things that you should. You try to if there's lost contact with the Lemurs, you try to contact one of the other mega cities, and if that failed, you were to essentially head back to Lemurs.
We'll head back to Lemurs.
Okay.
Heading back, normally the GPRs follow. They can go fairly quickly, close to about 40 miles per hour, depending on the terrain. But they lag behind and they keep rebooting, and if you continue at a decent speed, the GPRs are just not going to keep up with you.
Is there a way that we can attach them to the rover?
The rover probably could carry one, but it'd be very, I suppose, what the hell have you? You could have one of the GPRs attach itself to the rover. The other one, if you tried to attach it, it would become very lopsided, and it would make it difficult for the rover to cross terrain.
I would put one on one side, one on the other.
Theoretically, the GPRs could be remotely recalled, but for whatever reason, there's...
Probably better for us to have one if we need be.
How fast would we have to slow down? Like, what speed do we normally go, and what speed would we go?
Given the rover, it is kind of difficult terrain, but there's a straight shot from here, kind of a valley bed, most likely some sort of ancient river or glacial area. So initially, to cross a little bit of terrain, it'll take you several hours, but then it's going to be a straight shot for the remaining 160 miles to Lemurs. So here, about 20 miles per hour, and they can speed up to about 40, 50.
We'll do that then.
Sure.
And then every time that we stop to slow down for the robots to catch up, we'll send out a signal again to see if we can get something.
Okay.
I bet we could do that as we're traveling.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a large RV. Somebody could be on a computer terminal. In fact, all of you
We'll
could
do
be on a
sensor
computer
scans.
terminal.
Yep, we'll do sensor scans and
But we do pick up our Geller generator and our bio samples and everything.
You guys can give me an electronics operation sensors, and then someone else, not making that roll, can give me a heavy wheel drive.
I'm doing sensors.
sensors. 9.
Sensors by 2.
So you guys can take the highest person and add
Does
one.
anybody have driving?
Yep, the medical officer is driving the rover. For the most, under normal circumstances, they could drive themselves home. You wouldn't actually have to do anything, but right now, Lemurs isn't contacting you. They are fairly easy to drive. There's a lot of, I would say, smart computer programming here.
Who's got the best sensors? I got a 17.
You do.
15.
Thanks. I did it by 8.
All right, we'll get to add anyone else? 8 and higher than 8
Higher than 8 for what?
for electronics operations.
I got
You're
2.
driving right now.
I made it by 3.
But you're driving.
Yep.
So we did by 8 plus 7.
Initially, you end up having some small issues getting the GPR on. When you go out there and physically lock their gripper hands, then it's not too much of an issue other than you are carrying roughly double the weight of the rover with the GPR up there. But it's locked on. It shouldn't roll, provided you guys are fine. You start heading out slowly. I would say you get a +2 on your roll, Steve, from your other 2 helpers here, but you take the highest. So you made your sensors by 10. There's a lot of oddities which you're fairly confident of. The impact shield is down. You haven't detected any kind of radiation that might indicate a nearby an asteroid impact. But the meteorite field shouldn't be down unless they were doing some sort of maintenance cycling on it. That is what you initially thought was causing some of the outside radio disturbances, but you're simply not getting any of the shortwave radio emissions from the other colonies. I retract that. You're getting faint signals from New Hope and Hope's Fall. They are 2 of the closest cities from you, geographically, but still the signal that they're sending out should be far more powerful than it is.
Let's get up there to Lament.
Yep. We keep
Lemurs.
driving to Lemurs.
There are occasionally a few times where the vehicle will slow up because it's detecting one of the far wheels has lost power. But otherwise, you guys make it roughly, in probably I would say 4 or 5 hours. Is there anything else that you wanted to do along the trek?
Try to take positions of what time of day is it?
Initially, it was 4 a.m. It's a 26-hour day cycle on Oasis. It's going to be daylight now in probably about 3 hours. After 4 hours of driving, it's still actually somewhat dark out, which anyone can give me a meteorology or
Astronomy?
astronomy.
That would be meteorology, Earthlight, right?
Yep.
16 missed it by 6.
I made it by 2.
Oh my god,
Astronomy.
I hate low campaigns!
Well, 16 is pretty hard to get. With astronomy, if the time indicators on these devices are correct, then sunlight should have came about an hour ago based on where you are geographically. You can't think about any unusual effect that would have caused that to happen, so your only reasonable explanation is the clocks are incorrect on your road.
I tell you guys that.
How much time do I feel like we're losing, or it's not matching up?
You would generally feel, I think you have absolute timing as well.
Yep, and chronolocation, if that works.
I don't know, you've been feeling off. You've been feeling off ever since that time period. You have a sense that time's going on, but occasionally you move around and things feel odd.
Does it feel like I'm a couple seconds
Extra
behind?
sleep in the night. I'm all for this.
I don't know, it's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes you feel like you might be ahead of, and sometimes you might feel behind. Maybe you're suffering some sort of vertigo.
I'll let because for some reason I feel like we're speeding up, we're slowing down. It's not equally.
It should be daytime, so something odd is happening. It could be that we're in some sort of odd, I'll just say a Geller field. It could be.
Is this a result of a Geller field? Do you know for 100%?
Everything's the result of a Geller field.
I don't think so, but something odd is happening, I think.
It would take an immense Geller field to cover an area like this, like Lemurse, let alone cause issues with other
Can you
cities.
figure out how far deep that Geller field that you felt underneath was?
You had your own sense, and there was the Geller field. If you could come across another Geller field that might have been running around the same time period, maybe back at the lab, you'd be able to cross-reference the two time periods and see roughly when they were hit, and you might be able to triangulate.
I tell you, I can't tell about going back to the lab, and it would just be an approximation.
How far are we?
I'd say you're traveling for 3 hours about this time period. You're only about an hour away since you've made that straightaway. Then it's only about 20 minutes down the access shaft to Lemurse.
Try to communicate with them.
I would also say you guys can give me a general perceptions. I'll give
Visual?
you a +2 because you've been driving.
Visual perception?
Visual perception, yes.
That's 4.
All of you can generally tell that you've been driving the vehicle long enough. You've driven at kind of this rough time period before, early in the morning before the sun's hit. You're not sure if there's the same amount of power going to the front lights, but they're not going as far. The beam should go out close to about 40 to 50 meters. They are fairly high intensity. You don't really have a risk of high beaming anyone out here on this remote territory, but they're not going as far as they should. And you get, I would say, your character, Chris, you just get a bad feeling
The light constant
about
has
some of the other
changed.
areas around you that you can't see that well, and it's disturbing.
I'll tell everybody to get on the sensors to see if we can do a full biological, whatever, scan of the whole entire
You
area.
have chem sensors, you have IR sensors, even I would say light sonar, things of that nature.
IR,
This is an IR.
EMF,
Yep, electric.
Run them all.
magnetic field.
Yep.
Geller detector.
I'll give you guys the sensors roll that you've made before as you're coming along. You're not encountering any unusual. You occasionally come across indigenous species, but nothing unusual. Small creatures, nothing large and predatorial. You come across, obviously, a lot of fauna. trees off in the distance, brush grass, things of that nature. Nothing terribly unusual. IR seems to be similar, other than it is colder than it. You haven't been actively monitoring the climate, but it is a little bit colder than it was the day before. And given the sun hasn't come out, that might be normal. You'd have to check other meteorological data.
I'll try to go on the computer to scan what
As I said before, there should be a lot more EMF emissions out there, but they're not. It's just pretty weak signals.
I'll try to reference this time of year, past data, to see what it would be up here.
Give me a perception-based meteorology.
By 7?
By 7? It's a little bit colder than average, but it fits within acceptable parameters for how cold it would be.
Are we going in the right direction?
You have a feeling that, yeah, you're heading towards Lemur. Also, the GPS, I should say, your inertial compass on the rover is telling you that you're going in the right direction. However, you've lost GPS signals some time ago.
So,
Rapid movement.
sensors are all okay.
You have a strong inclination that sensors are fine. There's just some sort of underlying. You can't think that there's some sort of systemic hardware failure. But the sensors seem to be working properly.
Is there a way they can check if the light constant has changed? I'll say, you get out of the car, take this candle, I'll be in the car with this candle, and when we go by each other at the same speed.
No, I would say that you could set a flashlight from here at a certain lumen level, and you could measure it, but you'd have to be away from the vehicle.
I'll say we should stop and test this. There's something weird with the lights. This could change the entire way our electronics work.
I'll use one of the little robot things and have it go up there with the flashlight and measure the lumens as it goes away and see if the...
I'll say it's not working.
It seems
you need
to
another
reboot.
robot to fix it.
The small technical robot heads off onto kind of a flat field. It gets about 15 meters off. That's when you lose contact. What is it? It stops. You can physically see it, but it shuts down. It seems like it was indicating that it had various sensor power outages and pieces of equipment it had on it. You did get a little bit of light readings, which you guys can give me either a perception-based physics at 2 or a electronics communication, I would say.
Well, electronics operations scientific.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
I did it by 11.
Perception, physics by 1.
By 1. By
Scientific, science by 11.
Yep.
That's my spell shifting. That's my best skill.
By 11, I'll give you a +1 on that too, so 12. Given what the sensors indicate on the robot, shining the flashlight back before it lost power, it seemed to be indicating that there was probably about, I would say, 2,000 lumens pointing back towards the vehicle. And given from what you understand, there's a loss of light, where there's nothing between you and it. It's just there was a loss of light photons reaching here.
20%, 10%.
But they were moving at the same speed.
Yeah, they're moving at the same speed.
Something's just absorbing them.
Logic would dictate that there's something wrong with the hardware, but it keeps coming back that there's all these hardware failures. Yeah, like there's something between here and that, but sensors indicate there's nothing between here and there.
How? Nothing. Nothing.
You have clear view.
So
it's
it
darker
shines the
than
flashlight at us and it looks dark.
It shines the flashlight at you, and it looks bright before it shuts down. It just, your sensors indicate based on what it's sending out and what should be getting here based on the distance. There's no fog out there that you're seeing, so you're just getting less light.
Percentage.
I'd probably say 20-30%.
I say we need to boost the power on the robots by 5 times the power.
How far are we from...
Right now, you're probably only about 40 miles from Lemur, so it's about less than an hour.
Load them up. We gotta take the truck it through.
Let's boost the power.
You need to go retrieve the other robot. It's no longer communicating. I mean, you can physically see it. It's in a flat field 15 meters away from you.
drive to it, pick it up.
Okay. You guys drive over to it, come outside. Once you pull it back into the vehicle, it reboots, and it seems to be acting normally.
How are our biosuits acting up?
Your biosuits haven't been acting up from what you can tell.
How many other objects are just connected to Lemurs and Domino? That's inside our vehicle.
Well, the only thing that has the capacity to reach Lemurs from where you were is the rover and the GPRs. So those should have been in constant communication with Lemurs. If they lost communications, like if they went into a cave structure or what have you, then they would try to connect to the rover, and then if not, try to connect to you.
Let's go.
Pick up the robot. Let's keep going.
Like I said,
This could be affecting everything. If we're losing photons, we could be losing electrons. The physics of the world could have changed somehow.
Power is now.
Initially, that
quarter
sounds
as
like an
efficient.
absurd concept, but it's actually the most simple explanation for what's happening right now.
Has it gotten worse since we've gotten closer to Lemurs?
It's been about the same, but you feel as though the internal clock on here is accurate. I mean, it's been telling you that you've been traveling for 3 hours, but you don't know about that. I mean, you're looking at it, and it is counting off accurately what you would feel, but you just get a kind of a sixth sense that that's not right. Something's not right about the time.
I throw a Snickers bar at time.
You can throw a Snickers bar at the panel, which is essentially indicating how much time has passed relative to itself, or I should say, it is counting itself.
And then I retrieve the Snickers bar.
All right.
Telekinetically.
Okay.
As we're driving forward, I'll make sure we take scans going backwards, like looking up through the back
Yep.
security cameras and stuff like that.
I would say over the last 45 minutes as you're traveling to Lemurs, the sensor equipment directly behind the vehicle, it's kind of, there's omnidirectional sensors, but your sensor sweeps behind the vehicle are less effective than those directly in front of the vehicle. And that makes no sense.
So we're going to have a visual scan while we're driving. For the lights.
There's a back hatch port, and you have probably about 130 degree vision from the front.
It's odd. How about the laser rangefinder?
You haven't tried it.
I try it. I poke something that's nearby and I keep going out.
I would say that's part of the IR sensors. You're talking about the IR sensors on the,
Sure.
the ship.
Yeah.
They're also indicating that visually you would estimate that a nearby ridgeline is probably close to about a click away. The sensors are telling you based on how long it takes for the photons. I would say you're just getting. It says that it's a meter away. They're traveling at the same speed. No, let me redact that.
It measures the time that they're gone.
Yep, I'm trying to equate that to based on what's happening here. It sends back 3 times. It tells you it's 300 meters away, a click away, and 3 clicks away.
Huh. All right. Odd.
The thing that's odd about the 3 clicks is visually, you're very confident it's not 3 clicks away. But based on how fast it's getting a signal back, it's getting intermittent bursts of supposedly its own IR being reflected back towards it. But they're coming in at massive delays. One of them even comes in a little bit quicker than it should. And from what you can see visually, there's nothing blocking it 300 meters away. Otherwise, you guys continue on. You still have the 1 GPR. You do lose, what is it? You lost the GPR back in the other GPR up in the mountain range just because it kept losing signals. Unless you wanted to have to babysit it every 5 minutes, rebooting it, it would probably quadruple the time that you were spending trying to get back to Lemurs.
And I will leave one behind.
Yeah. If systems come back up and running, you can remotely recover a GPR. Not only that, but I should say Oasis in general is fairly resource rich. A GPR is not
A loss.
It's not a loss. It's not counted as a loss whatsoever. I mean, just practicality, you want to replace it and not just pollute the above with GPRs, but it's not a loss.
All right.
It's kind of like a printer. You can get a new one for $30. It's like, well, this one's kind of old.
Our time is worth more than that. We continue on with Alda. We keep heading
Ultimately,
towards
you arrive one of the larger blast doors leading down to the access shaft leading to Lemurs. The door should automatically detect the rover. It should automatically open up.
And of course, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Huh.
There's an access shaft from here, even and an access door, but the main blast doors don't open up.
I'll go out and see if we can open it manually.
You'd have checking
pick
it
up
out.
a
It
rock
seems like the
and-
console attached to here isn't responding. It looks as though occasionally some of the lights on the keyboard kind of light up, but then the whole system looks like it's suffering from the same electronic failures.
I'll pick up the biggest rock that I feel I can pick up and lift it, bam, lift it, bam, lift it, bam, on the door like knocking.
Unless somebody's coming up, the access shaft is close to about a mile. Was it a half a mile long?
Still doing it.
Okay.
Is there a manual way to open it?
Normally you would come up to the console and just enter a manual bypass here. It seems as though if the console is an indicator, then it means that there's power failures to the motors that operate the blast door. You could cut yourself. You could either cut into the power of the blast door here and try to use one of the reactors to power the motors, or you could simply cut the locks and bypass the security door, but you wouldn't be able to put the rover in it.
We can try to hack it. I don't even know if that's a skill.
There's computer programming and things, but the problem is the terminal here is unpowered. Or at least there's power going to it.
Is there a switch on the other side to release it that I saw while we were leaving?
Well, the terminal should open it. There's not a manual button on the other side.
Yeah, it's called computer hacking.
What I'm saying is there's two terminals on, on each side. However, if there's no power going to the terminal, then trying to telepathically or telekinetically gain access to it won't do anything.
Could the was it
You know, if it's a
GRPs,
high-tech
is that
society,
what it is?
maybe they rigged it with springs on the other side with an emergency button, so, you know, it opens and closes electronically, but there's also
GPR.
little springs that go...
Yep. However, from what Chris's character tells you, it seems like there's power failing to run to the motor. So it doesn't matter if there's a button on the other side or a big lever. There's nothing opening up this massive blast
It's an
door.
old-timey crane.
It needs
There's
power.
something that GPR could do to open this door, like
Can it
a big
dock?
crate or
Can
something.
it dock with it so it could share some of its power to the terminal?
It could theoretically
All right.
to the
I'll
terminal.
ask the GPR to
The GPR, given enough time, could cut through this blast door.
ask the GPR to link with the terminal so we can drive in.
I would say the GPR can make it over to the terminal. It doesn't necessarily have any skill regarding connecting into a terminal. Normally, it would try to contact Domino 3, the superintendent. Since it can't, it's dumb in this instance.
I'll help to facilitate the protocol transfer between the
GRP.
GPR and the door.
It's merely wiring them up, so an electrician will suffice. I'd say an electrician at plus one.
An electrician, everybody. Electrician.
Got it! Nope. Failed by one.
I said I was at a plus one. It takes a little, it was at some time, but you guys can get power to the terminal. The terminal can see the door, however, it's not seeing any of the connections to Lemurs.
I'll throw a Snickers bar in.
Open the door.
Okay.
Can we still ask it to open the blast doors?
Yep. It sends a signal, and it just keeps telling you that it's waiting, and then it says that there's no power.
Right, so we're using your power to open the doors. Stop trying to talk to Lemurs. Stop trying to talk to Lemurs.
You guys hooked up.
Disconnect that.
You guys hooked up the power to the terminal here.
Yep.
What the terminal is telling you is the power cables running to the electric motors that open up the blast door are unpowered. You're going to have to cut in and
Power
connect the
those.
GPR to the.
Okay, I
Okay.
understand.
Go
Yeah.
that way.
You guys can
Get the
cut.
electrician on it.
It takes probably about 30 minutes, unfortunately. There is a section which allows easier access to the power cables, but they are fairly thick. You do need the GPR to cut into the walls here. Otherwise, it would be a multi-day process where you'd have to blow a hole into one of the blast doors here.
We use the GPR.
The GPR cuts in. You guys can give me another electrician roll and +1.
Passed by 2.
The GPR has sufficient power to open up this very large blast door. The motors start to spin. Ultimately, they slowly open up the blast door. It seems as though the base has very poor emergency lighting on, indicating that there might be some sort of base-wide issue. Otherwise, you can disconnect the GPR. Another issue that you've seen is there are occasional power failures from the GPR, but it seems to be more stable now for whatever reason.
Okay. Make our way down.
So you having the GPR follow the rover or attach it to it?
Can it still, if it needed to fire, could it still fire when it's attached?
It could.
Okay.
It would have a limited firing arc.
Okay. We'll have it attached.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're not slowed down by it, stuff like that. So.
Not significantly, no.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Takes a moment for the GPR to connect up to the rover. You guys drive down. Ultimately, you come across what appears to be another rover, probably about close to about 4/5 of the way down. The lights are flickering in on it. There's emergency lighting currently in the access shaft. There doesn't appear to be. It's not moving.
Have the other GPR to go reboot it, see if we can.
You only have the one GPR right now.
Yep. We'll have it detached.
Yep.
Go reboot.
It moves away probably about 12 meters, and it seems like it reboots.
Drive up closer to it. See if we can get it to reattach.
Probably another 15 minutes. The closer you get to it, eventually it does reboot and seems stable for a moment. It does reattach. There's a noticeable thunk on the top of the vehicle. You guys shift.
Is the other one, as we get close to it, reboot, starts to function fine?
The other rover seems to be at least turned on. The lights are on.
Try to see if we can connect with it.
Getting closer. I would say you can give me electronic assault comm.
Default 4, right?
It's a -4 if you don't have
You
it.
can do it.
That's right. It seems as though it's currently set at parking brake. It seems like it's in some sort of emergency mode. It seems like diagnostics are running on it. The internal from here, there's very low crime, and I would say Oasis in general. There would be no sufficient security protocols on here. You could access it, and you have proper authentication, so you can tell that no one is interior. You can give me a computer operations roll, however. Close to about 4 hours ago and 10 minutes, same time around that, slightly, I would say slightly after the fluctuation, this vehicle had 4 people heading out on a remote meteorite impact, a remote archaeological dig. The sensors seem to indicate that the doors haven't been opened.
Where's the vehicle?
It's parked right on this 30-degree angle coming down into Lemurs.
No people?
You can't see through the front shield.
Put on my biosuit and go out.
For the most part, you haven't noticed any unusual activities with your biosuit. You can head over to the other rover.
I'll head out to the other rover and
Right.
see if there's anybody inside.
Checking the back hatch of the rover, opening it up, there's nobody interior. It does look like they are checked out on equipment. I would probably say that there is a shutdown GPR here as well, aside the vehicle. Yeah, there's nobody here.
Try to turn on the rover.
The rover seems like it's on. It's just the lights are flickering for whatever reason.
Going into a reset mode.
It looks like it suffered a power failure and rebooted, but
I'll let you guys know through my biosuit that it's rebooted.
It's having the same problems.
He said there was a meteorite and they were going out on an exploration.
to clarify that, they were going on an archaeological dig for a previous meteorite impact, something that most likely took place like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Okay. Did they get the meteor?
It seems like this team was heading out. You know that Oasis is bombarded by small meteorite impacts all the time. There's probably a queue of meteorite impact sites that these individuals probably were going on. It's just this week it was this one. It seems as though, like I said before, about 4 hours ago, a team of 4 people was heading out, and then the system rebooted. They must have left the vessel during that time because the computer doesn't register that anyone left the vehicle while it was running.
Check to see what names were assigned out to this vehicle.
There was a Gina Nova, a Clark Moonfire, a Dan Patterson, and a Jacob Michelson.
Make note of the names.
They seem to be a meteorologist, a robotics technician, and then a medical officer.
It's us.
-1, one was died.
No body. I mean,
No
personal effects, nothing like that that's in here.
Maybe a scrounge.
By one.
Looking through the inventory, it seems as though somebody was going through a tool set. There are rations that have been placed out. Looks like they were getting ready to be re-synthesized and heated. There are 4 biosuits that are checked out from the internal rover. Otherwise, no, there's no... I suppose everything on somebody's person is not here. So they could be somewhere else in the facility or came back to Lemurse when the power failure happened.
If any of us aren't wearing biosuits, we should have them on. Okay.
The biosuits are form-fitting, so unless you have some sort of claustrophobia, they're not. It's kind of like a onesie. It's not that uncomfortable, so it's not. You could easily be wearing a jumpsuit at any point in time.
They power out. The power's right now.
They have an internal power cell, but they also generate power from solar energy and biothermal. So if you stop producing heat, then it'll eventually shut down if it doesn't have any sunlight.
And if it did run out of energy, isn't it just like a rubber suit, so it wouldn't like stop you moving or anything, right?
Nope, it's a bioplastic suit. It wouldn't stop you. The only thing is your radio and your computer equipment on it would reboot.
So it wouldn't be horrible.
No, it would not affect you whatsoever. It's just you would no longer have access to the small diagnostics computer, the personal computer, and the radio equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I recommend everybody put one on, but you don't have to.
we'll